Streaming.
Okay, I'll do the intro.
Yeah, when you're ready.
We good?
Yeah.
All right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of the Oil Drop Podcast. I am James. With me, as usual, is Adam and Arun. Today is Sunday, November the 19th, 2017. Yeah, we're about a quarter of the way through the season here now, so we got a couple of topics to talk about, and then we will briefly go over an overall rating for the team. So I guess first off here, something notable that happened to the team in the last week or so. It was like less than a week. There was a small trade that the Oilers made. So they shipped off Jussi Jokinen to the LA Kings in exchange for Mike Cammalleri. Both of them are bottom six wingers at this point in their careers. When the trade happened, I was initially pretty excited because it's Mike Cammalleri. But then, what year is it? Sort of like came into my head because Cammalleri was a great player around like 2010 or so. But he's a shadow of his former self. So, but anyway, what did you guys think of that trade?
I remember I got called out because Cammalleri had 7 points in 14 games, and Jokinen had only 1 point in I think 15 or 14 games. And I was saying, we got like the better end of the stick, but it's still a shitty stick. And I got called out for that, saying that the point difference is so much, and Cammalleri, Jokinen looked like an absolutely garbage player. Cammalleri can shoot the puck, he'll be great on the power play. But with just 2 games in for both of them, Cammalleri has almost no contributions, just a measly 4 shots on net. And Jokinen has now 2 assists, one of which hit the highlight reel for the week because he managed to find Doughty with the seeing eye pass. Now, the question is that begs the question of, is what's going on right now just with the Oilers just losing culture? Or is there some locker room problem that we're not aware of? Or is this just one trade woke up a guy where the other guy went, oh no, I'm almost last in the league?
I don't know. I think it's a case of just it's been 2 games. I mean, anything can happen in 2 games. You see it at the beginning of every season. I mean, there's players you never heard of leading the league in scoring after 2 weeks. That sort of stuff happens every year.
Yeah. I want to hear Mr. Blair Witch Project chime in on this.
Yeah, my mic decided to fall off my computer or my webcam. I don't know. I think at some point you have to say what year is it for the entire team at this point, because we're playing like 2010. We have players that were good in 2010, and we have nobody else that can play hockey right now. So this is going to take a minute there. So if you look at what's going on with the team right now, it seems like everybody has regressed 5 years, which for some players is really good. Nucci's playing like he was a few years ago, but Lucic is just awful. He's not. He should be. If ideally, God damn it, if all was right, we'd be playing like we were 10 years ago, which is, or not 10 years, sorry, we were playing like players were 5 years ago, and right now we're just in a hole. As for the trade, it's not going to do anything for us. It's just a fourth liner or a fourth liner.
Yeah, it's true.
It's not going to be productive. It's
as realistic a portrayal as possible of the Blair Witch Project right now.
And
it's we got the shaky cam going on. We got the guy in the hoodie and the sweatpants.
Hey, they're pajamas.
You've got a single light source in the whole room. All we need is something night vision and an actual witch, and you're fine.
As it turns out, this is where my house. No, and I mean the other side of it is, if you look at Cammalleri and Jokinen, that was a small trade, and then Chiarelli followed up by saying, "This is it. The cavalry isn't coming."
Yeah.
So realistically,
they are the cavalry.
this team has to improve over this year, and I think there was a stat that came out yesterday that said no team with the current record we have at this point of the season has made the playoffs since the lockout.
Really?
Apparently, yeah.
Oh.
So we are.
I was actually looking that up, and I was looking up last year's season, and the second worst team by American Thanksgiving last year was Calgary, and Calgary made the playoffs.
Right, but with our current record now, It depends because there's a bunch of different teams with a bunch of different points. But we are currently, with our record, we're currently the worst team who would ever make the playoffs if we did make it.
Didn't Calgary go on like a 12-game win streak last season or something crazy like that?
They hit a 10-game win streak, I'm pretty sure.
Did they?
Yeah.
I thought they did.
I don't anticipate Edmonton doing that.
They were the only team that hit a 10-game win streak. There were one of only 2 teams, that season that hit a 10-game win streak that actually made the playoffs. Philly also had a 10-game win streak and failed to make the playoffs. There were 3 teams that had 10-game win streaks.
Yeah, that's
but Philly looks actually good this year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, so yeah, that pretty much covers the trade. I mean, it's a small trade. It's not going to be the key that unlocks our season, or it's not going to be the key that unlocks the LA Kings season either. So,
the LA Kings are like top in the Pacific.
I know.
So who cares?
I know.
They don't need no keys. I'll tell you what.
Yeah. If the Oilers continue down this road and they miss the playoffs this season, what do you think happens individually to Todd McLellan and Pete Chiarelli?
Now, do we say what we want to happen or what we think will happen?
What do you think will happen?
I could see McLellan being fired and Chiarelli getting a short rope because that's what the NHL moves towards. Coaches have a shorter tenure than management does. But at the same time, I'd much rather Chiarelli was fired at this point than McLellan.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, that 100 times yes. I'm of the exact same point. Like, I know a lot of the people in the among fans as well as in the subreddits and whatnot and the other forums are going off on Chiarelli, but they're also like even going harder off on McLellan and going that he's getting out coached each game and all this kind of stuff.
The actor?
No, Todd T-Mac, dude. I'm bad with names, dude.
I know.
He's basically the problem is that compared to last season, he has less tools available in his toolbox, and that's where I think he's having so much trouble. And the reason that I'm giving him a much longer rope is that last season's playoffs actually impressed me, where I went and I stopped and I understood that, perhaps his lack of playoff success wasn't because he was getting out coached, but simply because the players' mentality or whatnot wasn't in the right place, and that had a huge part to do with it. But in our hands right now is one of the most winningest coaches in NHL history, and we're contemplating just giving him up, and we're harping down on him on the basis that he's getting out coached when he's put up multiple President Trophy wins and multiple division wins and being one of the winningest coaches in NHL history post not the most recent lockout but the early second last lockout. And I don't want to lose him. I'll be honest with you, I want to keep T-Mac, Todd McLellan. Right?
Yeah, it's what I think will happen is I don't think anyone will be fired after this year, but mid next season, I could see it happening. And kind of like Adam said, coaches always have, not always, but normally have a shorter lifespan than management. Management will sometimes fire the coach to give the team a kick in the ass. That's like an ace in the hole sort of thing when the heat's already turned up. We could see that next year, but I would also like to see Chiarelli gone way before McLellan. It's just continually bleeding asset value and just making decisions that make no sense.
Yeah,
that just make no sense.
To give people an idea, and we've talked about this before, but I want to repaint that picture really quickly. So the cap how that Todd McLellan has managed, not Todd McLellan, Jesus Christ, kill me, that Chiarelli has put us into is, put it simply, it's bad. And put it more as a longer story, we essentially have around 14 to 16 million, depending on how much the cap goes up, if it's either 2 million to 4 million, to sign 14 roster spots next year.
That's fucked.
Among those
I don't know
players
what they-
include Nurse, Benning, Maroon, Letestu, Ryan Strome, among others. And then once we're done with that this year, next year we have to sign Talbot.
No, we won't because we want the cap space.
We won't have the
Yeah,
cap
I was
space.
gonna say, Verswall is gonna be our starter.
So right
Mm.
now we are in a situation where I think most of us would agree our second best forward will be traded because he can be. And that's just simply the path that we've been led down to by these no trade clauses, no movement clauses, and 1 to 1.5 million overpays on essentially guys that whose contracts will end when they're 35 years old.
The only value contract right now is
Talbot.
Talbot and Clefbaum.
Talbot and
Clefbaum's
Clefbaum,
not-
yeah.
See, Clefbaum's not even playing up to his talent right now.
I don't know
No,
what's going on with
folks.
Clefbaum. I feel so bad for him because he's just lost on the ice right now.
Yeah, he's been bad all year.
But
so
the
far.
funny thing is, on a goals for, like, it's quite literally like on an advanced metric level, they're doing fantastic. But it's just he's having these like really big mistakes that's leading to goals against. So their goals for percentage is actually worse. Like it's like 37% this year when he's
Ryan
playing
Gibbons
with
was last year.
Larson. When he's playing with Larson.
Reminds me of Nurse last year where he just couldn't figure out. He's making big mistakes and he's doing little things right.
Yeah,
But these
yeah,
big mistakes are costing him.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. Anyone else have anything to add to this or no?
What I wouldn't mind seeing happen at the end of the season, because I think James is actually probably right, is that they're not going to fire anybody till next year. But what I'd like is that if Joe Woodcroft was gone and brought Todd Nelson back, I doubt he would come back to the organization.
I don't think he'll come back to the organization. No.
He would not.
It's a
Yeah.
pipe.
Especially with
He
the
would
way
not
that the
come back.
organization is doing right now, and the fact that they've like in the last set of like management moves where they refused to fire basically the previous existing staff and opted to replace them with guys that essentially brought in everyone into the position that previously worked for them. Like it's a screaming out to everyone around the league that this is a management that won't show you any loyalty unless you're an existing person, a famous person within the organization previously.
So you believe that the OBC is still active within the Oilers?
Oh yeah.
Like they're still running team.
Yeah, yeah. It's just the OBC is now just hit by a different person, but their beliefs are essentially the same.
What would you make of that, James?
And this
I
one
don't
I think is
know.
more malicious because the fans think there's hope.
Yeah, I don't. God, man, I don't know. I don't think necessarily the OBC is still in charge because I know what their titles are, and as far as Pete Chiarelli goes, like he's a strong. Say what you want about his abilities, but he's a strong character. Like I don't think he would be okay with being a figurehead. So I don't know if necessarily the OBC is still in charge.
I mean this in the sense of values, not in the sense of OBC specifically.
Well, what do you mean? Go.
Where
Elaborate.
it's an overvaluement of players that aren't that good, investing in a specific timeline for progress and one specific timeline where you trade for a player like Ryan Strome on the belief that he will be that third line center who you don't have to pay as much as Nugent Hopkins, allowing you to be able to trade
Right.
away Nugent Hopkins. Because that's the whole point. That's why they traded for Strome, is on the expectation that he'd be the third line center and Draisaitl would be the second line center, and they'd have a really strong lineup in the middle.
Is
That's
that
it.
not maybe overrating Chiarelli's abilities as a GM then, rather than the OBC values being upheld?
I mean, the OBC.
Because
What would we
Chiarelli's made bad
define
trades in
as
the past.
what would we define as OBC values then here? Because I'm coming up with different definitions.
Because I think what we're getting confused is maybe Chiarelli already had the OBC values of tough hockey, big slow guys playing hard nose to win, and because we saw that in Boston too, and now they're in a hole too, which they're struggling to climb out
Yeah.
of.
Oh, they've not. I would say they've climbed out of it now with Pasternak and
They're
McAvoy.
getting there, yeah.
Yeah. Definitely their goaltending is a problem on Boston's side, but it seems so odd when they've got a goaltender like Tuukka Rask. But yeah,
Is he having a bad year? I haven't even.
he's had a bad 2 years now. Last
Yeah,
year, like a
okay.
lot of their lack of success and poor performances could be tied to the fact that he just didn't have a good save percentage. And this year, he's letting in some weak shit in.
I know their defense had massive issues last year with injuries, and so that
Yes.
compromised a lot of their ability to.
But it
actually
did
help.
allow like a guy like McAvoy to come out into the limelight. Like he's gonna be one of the best defensemen, I think, in at least the
He's
East.
super good.
He's
Yeah.
so good. And the funny thing is that we wanted to draft him at that 15th round, but Chiarelli traded that pick and the second rounder to what was his name? To Islanders for Griffin Reinhardt.
For Griffin Reinhardt, yeah. That was the first move I think that Chiarelli
That was the
made
worst
right off the
move.
bat. I was like, this is not good, man.
That-
I even remember where I was. The
Yeah,
2015 draft, I went to a coworker's house and watched the draft
Mhm.
at his place. And as soon as that went through, people like asked me, like, is that a good trade? I don't know about that. And I was like, no, that's not a good trade.
Yeah.
That's going to come back to bite
No,
us.
like I'm talking about like when we're looking at, you know how there's those lists, it's like top 10 worst trades in the past decade. This is one of those
Yeah.
trades that will be years on into the future, one of the worst trades in NHL history.
It's bad. Yeah.
Simply
Right
on the
now-
fact of the player that we obtained with that trade is no longer on our team just one season after the trade.
And Matthew Barzal looks fucking unbelievable.
Yeah.
We weren't even going to pick him though.
No,
think
I don't
that's
think I don't believe that. I think we would have definitely picked him because he dropped from being a top 10 pick.
No,
I
there
mean-
was there was an Oilers Nation article that came out. They were talking to management, and they were sources that said that he wasn't even on the Oilers' radar, even if pick, which is kind of wondering what the scouting staff is doing.
I was gonna say, well, then that's a pretty damning statement on the scouting staff.
I also think part of it is that scout. Okay, at what point did the scouting staff get fired and replaced?
The year before that,
Yeah, it was 2014, I think. So
Yeah, because I know Chiarelli is dependent on the previous guys, but I don't know, dude. Like, like I'm happy with the scouting staff in some regards because they overlooked something like size and skill, not skill, sorry, size and height and things like that for picking
Yeah.
Yamamoto, and Yamamoto already is looking like a great pickup, and maybe a year or two out from being a fairly like decent, respectable top 6 forward. It's true, clearly second line. I don't think his ceiling is going to be much higher than second line, but
there's also a difference between one pick and your entire team culture.
yeah,
Because I mean, the small players in the Oilers are who like Kajula, Hakkinen, Nuge, and they're all trying to play harder games right now. Like I've seen Nuge throw more hits in the last 3 games than I have in my entire life. Like,
that's exaggeration nonetheless. But I agree with you.
well, yeah, it's hyperbole,
It's a
but it's not
huge-
entirely accurate. I don't know.
I don't know. I guess in that vein that we're talking about Chiarelli and his trades and whatnot, we could talk about hypotheticals and all this kind of stuff. And I think I saw one analysis that pointed out that if Chiarelli had not made the moves that he had and he changed things around, we could be looking at like a lineup with McDavid, Bozer, Besser, is that? I don't know. I have
That's
him
how
on
you
my
say
fantasy roster, and you just go with the vowels. It's do it, Besser. Along with a few other players, and already Besser is like a point per game, and the other players too have been great. And I don't know, dude. It's just starting to annoy me.
The longer the time goes on, the worse that certain players begin to look. At the beginning of the year, we did a cast about 3 weeks ago, and at the time I was like, Lucic he's not doing too bad, and
now he just looks bad.
He looks bad.
And
his offensive production is like on pace for 45 points or something like that. So
which is the steady decline that I mentioned last cast too.
Well, yeah, I think it's something we could all see coming, but
And the thing about what was it, Lucic too, is now like now he is like lighting up again and like putting himself on the highlight reel, but for all the wrong reasons, like running over Ben Bishop and other shit.
I think the problem, if you look, part of it is Ryan Strome is currently playing exactly how he has played his entire NHL career.
Except for one season.
Minus one season, he's playing at exactly the same rate. So this is the player we traded for.
Yeah, this is Ryan Strome.
This is what we got. This is kind of like Strome, the most depressing part, because Eberle and Barzal have found chemistry, and Eberle's killing it.
Yeah. And it's not as if, like, you could say, like, oh, it's because of Barzal that Eberle's good. I mean, you could also say in the same vein that we could have had Barzal and Eberle, but,
It's just... I remember 2 years ago I was being super excited about Chiarelli because we'd finally got a management that wasn't in the OBC, and then they make a difference, blah, blah, and they started up with all these interesting trades and stuff. And then it's funny how fast we've gone from he's great to what the hell is he doing, get him up before he runs the rest of the
here's the key reason why I think our expectations and the reason that fans have really soured on Chiarelli, and Chiarelli in particular, although some fans, are diehard and say, like, oh, it's circumstances, because fans are of the opinion that actions will speak louder than words. So they're not too concerned all the time about what exactly Chiarelli is saying. We're concerned about what exactly Chiarelli is doing. And then you look at what he's doing, and you're seeing all these no trade clauses, no movement clauses, contracts that are signed 1 year longer than they should be for $1 million more than they should. And you go, okay, that's that one circumstance. Okay, that's that other circumstance. And then you get to essentially, like, you're looking into the future and you're going, oh, this is not a good situation. And you set up high expectations. Not only the media do, but also fans do, because this essentially is our last year to compete with Nugent Hopkins, with a complete roster before we head into that same Penguins cap hell that they were in after they won their cup, the first cup with Crosby. And you look at that and you go, like, this is our last season before we are in cap hell. And the cap hell is not our fault. It's management's fault for setting up the contracts as they have. So then our leeway there is that, you're going, like, if this works and this season works, shit's great, and, we'll deal with it as it comes. But when you're looking at, we go right back to where we were before, even before we hit cap hell, that's when fans lose all their patience. And that's why Chiarelli is being boiled alive everywhere in the league, both internally by the fans, and I would argue within the organization too, to some degree, although we won't see it. They're really tight-lipped. And among every single hockey forum, where it's very common to see, like, now there's another thread in our hockey that, it's like, they have 4 first overall picks. Why do they still suck? Yeah, well, no, like, you do realize they were selected between 2011 and 2015, right?
Yeah, we made a bad trade for one of them. One was an absolute bust, or one was a bust.
Yeah, and that would have been, and I would argue he would be a bust on most teams, and that's simply because of the style that he plays.
Yeah, I love him, but I mean, he's not a first overall talent. And if people are going to be down on that pick, fair enough. But if you go back and look at who people were predicting would go first overall, every team would have taken Yakupov.
Yep.
So
same with most teams would have taken.
The Oilers didn't make a bad trade.
The most teams would have taken Ryan Nugent-Hopkins because he's a center, and I would argue that he's a better player than Landeskog, so that was the better pick there. And then Yakupov, everyone would have taken Yakupov when you look at just simply the point production. And then you look at, was it the Seguin-Taylor Hall one? As much as you can argue that Seguin is the better player now, Taylor Hall is the kind of player that, like, immediately upon coming into the NHL, he was a fantastic dynamite player. Seguin took 2 seasons before he could settle into that.
I love Taylor Hall, man. He was my favorite Oiler when he was here.
And we traded him for Adam Larson, who has been our best defenseman. I will not.
To be fair, that trade is one of the few where I'm not mad. We still overpaid, and I'll always admit
we overpaid. Yes.
But it's not that one isn't any of them that I have an issue with. Which really, the Talbot trade was basically fucking
lucky. It was Slater lending us a favor.
Slater's, thank you. I can't believe
he quite literally said in a press conference, "This is my last trade as a GM," and he trades to his former team
for like what is a 48th and a 60 something.
Yeah, it was shit.
I can't even remember.
It was So that was jokes, and now we might not be able to retain him because we don't have a salary for him.
Wonderful.
He is good, man. But
okay, why don't we move on instead of focusing on the depressing shit and then rate that depressing shit?
But it's all depressing.
We're in that state. We're bad again. Oh no, we suck again. Like it's like we're.
Oh no.
We're like in this pit. Whereas now like we can't. We're only 2 or 3 points away from a playoff spot. Or actually, I think we're 5 now. But
we're like
that 5 points at this point in the season is nearly insurmountable with the way we've been playing.
Yeah. So here's another. Adam said that like you'd have to have a ridiculous win rate to make the playoffs. Another supplementary stat is a good check for whether or not you'll make the playoffs is American Thanksgiving, which is next week Thursday. So by next week Thursday, if we are still in the bottom 5, over the last 6 seasons, 3 teams that were in the bottom 5 by American Thanksgiving have made the playoffs. So our chances are very low. So I looked at it a little bit further, and over the last 3 seasons, 3 teams that were in the bottom 10 have made the playoffs. So unless we're outside of the bottom 5 and bottom 10, we are fucked.
Great.
Sweet.
And that would essentially, like, for us to be outside of that by American Thanksgiving, we need to win every one of our next games and hope that the teams above us lose all their games, too. Immediately above us, mind you.
Well, I think there's a stat that on average, in order to get to 90 points, which was 98, which was the average for playoffs next year, we need to win at like a 6-7-0 rate for the rest of the season. So...
It's not
basically, I think our record to get 94 points, which is not a guarantee. That's like, I believe last season it's 2 points outside of a playoff spot, is 37 wins that we need to get.
Something like 37, 38.
In the remaining games.
Like so,
it's is a better record than any other team in the NHL has put up in these final
And I mean,
games.
If you guys look at the team right now, game in and game out, what is the biggest issue we've had? Because I would say special teams are an issue, but at the same time, every single game there seems to be a new hole poking in the ship. It's like you find a hole, you plug it, and 3 others spring out. Like one game it's our defense making dumb mistakes, another one it's lack of scoring, another one it's Clefbaum turning the puck over, McDavid turning the puck over, Packard turning the puck over. It's like it's Talbot having a bad game. It's every single game there's something else cropping up, and it doesn't seem like it's fixable at this point.
Yeah. And now we stand as the worst Canadian team, which is fantastic if you're on any online forum whatsoever.
Great, yeah.
Because now even Jets fans who are like fans of Oilers are like, oh, they had so many first overall picks, they suck ass now. God damn it, your team didn't exist.
So... What are you gonna say? Like, they're right, so...
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I'm cashing in on that Hellebuck fantasy points, I'll tell you what. I won't complain.
All right, let's just go and rate. You kind of wrote it out a little bit here. So management, offense, defense, goaltending, special teams. We probably got about 10 minutes or so before Adam has to split. So let's start here with management. So this would be Peter Chiarelli, I guess.
It's just primarily Peter Chiarelli, as well as I guess included in there is relation with media, as well as the message that they're sending across. Adam, did you want to start with that one? Because I'm just going to wait for that one. Hello? Hello?
Oh, Adam. Adam does not have sound.
Mike was on mute. Yeah. Are we doing ratings or?
Yeah. We're starting off with management.
Management, yeah.
Which also includes media relations.
D minus at best, and that's being generous. Like it's been a disaster. The one trade you made the team worse. The second trade you made is inconsequential. The contract you signed at sunk us. You didn't fix anything, and if anything, you made the team worse, especially in the long run. It's not acceptable. So F.
He managed to do the one thing that most fans thought would be impossible. Fuck up a team with McDavid in it. And he has not only managed to fuck up a team with McDavid in it for this season, but arguably for the next 3 seasons.
For the next while, yeah.
4 or 5 years, yeah.
Just on contracts alone. So on that basis, I will happily give him an F.
I'll give him an F as well. It's the same sort of reason. Like, you cannot have Connor McDavid on your team and be third last in the league. Like, that is
unacceptable.
That's a fucking joke. You got to be kidding
there's
me.
only so much the kid can do. Jesus.
Yeah, like, he's scoring at over 100-point pace again this season. So, like,
and he's the only one
part.
And he's the only one that's like on that pace and projection. He's leading the team in points, leading the team in assists, leading the team in shots.
Yeah.
Leading the team in goals.
We have 5 more points than the fucking Coyotes.
And the Coyotes have now won 2 games in a row. If they string them together and we keep losing, we will be last in the NHL.
Yeah, all in for Dahlin.
All in for Dahlin.
Fuck it.
Oh, jeez. All right, next up, offense. What do you guys think?
We're so fucking top heavy. We look like Dolly Parton.
Aww.
Kitty. We have 3 players that are producing right now. One occasionally decides to show up a game, and then everyone else is just kind of doing their own shit.
Yeah.
So.
So what grade would you give that then?
D plus.
D plus. I'd give it.
Even McDavid looked off at times. Draisaitl's been very okay.
He started off very good and then poor.
And then Nuge has been fantastic, and he was the only player I actually say has been really good.
Consistent. That's the key thing about Nuge Hopkins,
yeah. Larson's been okay. Yep, that's different. Sorry, yeah, that's D minus, D plus.
Yeah, I would give it a D. If we're talking about before the Vegas game, I would definitely give it an F. But Vegas game showed me that they have the potential to score that much. But at the end of the day,
it's a 4-string goaltender.
It doesn't matter. I mean, that's still a goaltender that managed to put up wins for them too. No.
He's an he's an AHL backup.
No. So what ends up happening is, the big issue still is that the goal scoring is too concentrated, and there's no bottom 6 support. It doesn't help that the players that were around last season and playing bottom 6 are also now struggling again. And the new acquisitions are struggling arguably even harder. D. James?
D as well. The only thing that saves it from being an F is McDavid and Nuge, I would say. Nuge is still, he's only quote unquote scoring at around a 60-point pace, but that would be great. That would be fantastic if he kept that
$6 million contract.
Yeah, that would be pretty damn good. Like, he'd be living up to his contract anyway.
Yeah.
$1 million for 10 points.
Yeah, so that's that. Defense. And defense and goaltending. Throw them in there at the same time.
Together? If it's together, I'm giving it an F.
Oh, God. Defense, I think I go separate because defense has been like C minus because Nurse has been very good so far. He made a jump from last year. I don't want to say he's been very good. He's been good with some errors, but significantly less than last year. Mm-hmm. Larson's been steady. And then you look at Clefbaum's been horrific. Graba's been slower than he ever has been. Russell's
not playing third line minutes.
Russell's playing third line, so he's third pairing, so he's not really fucking up, but he's not really contributing at all. We're paying him $4 million to be the back end anchor.
And play the power play, dude.
OV2's been okay.
OV2's been good, yeah, I do agree.
Yeah, what he's been done, and then Who else am I missing in there?
Benning.
Benning regressed hard.
Benning didn't regress hard. Benning wasn't that great to begin with.
Yeah, but you have a very firm opinion on that, whereas we're more kind of he has moments and then he's just regressed this year.
Yeah. I'm very harsh of our defense. I'm going to be splitting up defense and goaltending. Adam, do you want to give goaltending score 2 then?
Right. Goaltending a C. He's been pretty average. Talbot's been average. He's hit or ass some nights. He's cost us some nights. Brossoit's been good as a backup so far.
Yeah. Defense is an F on the basis of what I look around the league. How I rank defense is just looking at, what do I expect from an NHL average defense? What are my expectations in goals against, and where do we stand? While I do ultimately think that we are above average in terms of, or just around average for goals against or goals allowed each game, I think a lot of the goals are defensive errors. As improved as Nurse is, he still causes mistakes that leads to goals against, and that can be seen in recent games too, where people question on why, where was the forecheck and why is the guy open right in front of the goaltender? Well, Nurse is the closest guy there. That is not a common theme, and he's not getting called out as much as he was last year on it. But that's still a thing that Nurse is doing, and now Klefbom is doing as well.
I will say closest guy to the net doesn't necessarily mean he's your guy.
There's been issues with
a lot of the fourth line players and missing their mark, where the defensemen just walk down from the point, and then Nurse is trying to make up for their mistake.
No, because I remember that specific play. I don't remember who did it or which team it was, but that specific play, the guy that Nurse is covering, is a solid 20 feet away from him, not even top of the circle. He's solidly by the blue line, and he lets I think it's Buffalo player or formerly Buffalo player Drew Stafford. He lets Drew Stafford basically walk in because he's so focused on the pass coming in, and he doesn't see that Drew Stafford is now walked into the bottom into the slot. I don't know these words. Oh, God. Anyway, yeah, that's that specific scenario. Sorry, Klefbom has.
You're rambling, dude. Just give it a grade. Come on.
Okay, yeah, I give it an F. The goaltending, I would give a C. That's mostly because Talbot has just been inconsistent. A lot of that can be attributed to defensive errors. However, there were defensive errors last year too, and we could see a save. Talbot's just struggling this year. James?
Yeah, so defense, more or less the same reasons that you guys listed. Larson's been steady, if unspectacular. Klefbom's been pretty bad. Nurse has been better. Benning, Ovitu, Russell, they're kind of just they're roster players for me at this point.
Yeah.
I don't really they're filling out the roster. That's really what they're doing. I give them. Oh, geez. I give it a D. I give him a D. I feel even a little bit generous saying that. Goaltending, Talbot has not been nearly as good as he was last year. Some of it can be attributed to defensive breakdowns and errors, but also sometimes he's just cost us straight up.
Yeah, that Dallas game.
Yeah, I was going to say that was the one that comes to mind immediately. So I will give goaltending a C-.
C-. What's the last one to rate then? Or do we have a special teams?
Special teams, I think.
Yeah. And I think we can do a universal one for that one because they're both bad.
Yeah, they're both super bad.
Everyone saying F, say I.
Aye.
So it's all an F.
Just no words.
No, James, I want to hear your thoughts on it because I want to hear your descriptors on how
I made it pretty abundantly clear how I feel.
Yeah.
Sorry, Adam, say that again?
I've made it pretty abundantly clear about how I feel about Woodcroft and special teams.
Yeah.
The power play specifically is incredibly predictable. It seems that they have one or two set plays that they always go for. I don't know how to fix it. I'm glad that it's not my problem to fix, but let's see where they're sitting at in the league right now. Get out of here.
Kitty.
Get out.
Kitty.
Ugh. Where are they? No, seriously, where are they?
Power play.
They're 10th. What the hell?
Yeah,
I'll be right
it's
back.
you know what, our power play is deceivingly good because we had Vegas. I think we went 3 for 3 in the power play. We had a couple games where we went 1 for 1, 2 for 2. So we're having occasional games where we improve and then we go 1 for 6 in a game and it kills us. So realistically, the power play as a total whole isn't awful, but it's situationally terrible. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know, because whenever I see the power play going, I'm like, I don't even expect a goal. I don't even really hope for a goal.
I don't hope for goal against is what I hope for.
Yeah, I don't know. 10th though, that was surprising. Holy.
They're really 10th? Jeez.
Yeah. The PK they're 29th, so that's
sorry.
that's kind of where I expected that to be. But I
Their
guess
power
I'll have to revisit my grade a little bit. 10th is 10th. You can't
take that
fiddle
away
with that.
I think
Yeah,
it's being
so-
skewed. I think power play percentage is being skewed because I don't think we're getting as many calls as we were in compared to other teams in the NHL. And I also think that we're putting them like when our power play goals go in, they go in bunches. Like you look at the Vegas game, and I think our like 3 or 4 goals in that Vegas game was purely
That's what I
power play
said too.
goals. Sorry.
No. I just love that, but it's it's worth noting we're 30th in penalty minutes per game, and yet we still have the worst penalty kill in the league.
Weird.
What?
Yep.
We're
So
30th in penalty minutes in the.
We take
my
12.5
God.
penalty minutes per game, and we're still 29th in penalty kill.
Okay,
That is so
I'm actually looking at the NHL.com website, James, and it says that the Oilers have the 3rd worst penalty kill in the league.
That's what I said.
29.
3rd?
Yeah.
I thought you said 2nd. 20. Fucking 31 teams. Ugh.
Oh man. Like the funny thing is, like looking at these stats. So we're league average in faceoffs. We're 4th in the league in shots per game. We're 30th in the league in shooting percentage, which is no one's really surprised about that.
Yeah.
We're 22nd in goals allowed. We're 9th in shots on goal allowed, and then it's just like but we're 27th in goals for. So we have a terrible shooting percentage. We're putting a fuck ton of pucks on net. We're allowing a fair amount of shots, but we're also not really playing any sort of defense on a penalty kill.
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird mix of shit right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And an important thing to note, like, we all graded like the thing generally in F, and even after the power play percentage, I still think it's an F for the penalty kill because the penalty kill just straight up costs us games, especially with there being I think it was like double the number of penalties called up to this point in the year than there was last year. No, more than double. I think it's like 2.5 times as much penalties being called this year as there was last year. And when that's the situation, you need your penalty kill to not be the 3rd worst in the league. But an important note is the Calgary Flames have the worst penalty kill in the league, and they're sitting sorely in a playoff spot.
Uh-huh.
I think the issue with me in the power play and the reason I'm rating it so poorly is that it's already cost us games. And when the league average in penalties has gone up, and you're expected to score an average of 1 to 3, like one out of 3 chances, and then we go a game where we get 6, 7 power plays, and you go 1 for 6, 1 for 7, or 0 for 6. That's you're literally losing 2 goals right there that you should be getting.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a league average power play.
Mm-hmm.
And so right there, regardless of whether you're 10th or not, you need to score on those opportunities, and that's where we've lost at least 2 or 3 games so far.
Yeah.
2 or 3 games puts us back at 500.
No, I agree.
So it's one of those critical mistakes that we can't.
Yeah, like if you look at the stretch that we've had so far, it's just straight up been like one below 500 stretch, where like on straight up on a total wins, total losses kind of level. outside of that 4-game losing streak that we started off the year with. And then you look at that losing streak and all that kind of stuff, and a lot of those games in that 500 stretch were just 1-goal games, and that's that difference maker.
It's worth noting too, for the rest of December we have some winnable games. But it's like we're playing St. Louis. It's a loss. We're playing Detroit. It's a coin toss with the way they're playing right now. Buffalo, we should win because of one of the few teams below us. But Boston, hit or miss on every night.
Mm-hmm.
Arizona is. If we don't beat Arizona at this point, just throw us off a cliff. And then Toronto, we should expect to lose to at this point, which is a depressing statement.
So I'm looking at the stats, and like what's killing us right now isn't the fact that we're not. It's not just that our goals for each game is bad and our goals against each game is bad. It's because they're both bad, and that's what's killing us. Because in every single part that we're talking about here, one part might be good, but because the other parts are bad, we're doing poorly. Right? Sorry. Let's get back to grading. What's left? Talking about notable players, right?
Pretty much. I mean, notably good players. Offensively, Nuge, I guess, would be the answer there. I mean, McDavid is expected to be spectacular. So notably good when perhaps you didn't expect it was Nuge. He's had a pretty good start of the season so far. He's been a lot more physical than I remember him being. He scored some key goals, and at this point, I don't know. At this point, he's like just as good as Draisaitl, if you ask me. So,
what's their difference in salary again?
2.5 million.
2.5 million. No. And then on defense, noticeably good, I guess it would have to be Nurse, just for the fact that everyone else has either been total dog shit or they are simply a warm body on the roster. So Nurse has been better than he was last year, but I still don't think he's been spectacular.
Yeah, I mean, notably good. Nuge is a pretty immediate answer. McDavid still, even when he looked bad, is still producing at 1 to 1.2 points per game. Puljujärvi, since he's been called up, has been good, which I'm pleasantly surprised about, even if he's not producing. I think he's at 1.3 games, something like that. He's still throwing hits. He's still playing active. He's playing hard. He's bringing energy. So that I do like. It'll be interesting to see what happens at the next few games. Brad Malone's been passable. As a fourth line pickup, he's been passable.
I would agree with that, yeah. He's no longer on the roster, though, is he? He's back in the AHL?
I think so.
Yeah.
But Larson's been all right, and then Nurse has been really the only improvement. But yeah.
I'll chime in. It's pretty much identical to you guys. I'll go with the consistency as well as highest high. I think highest high offensively has been McDavid for obvious reasons, but for a consistency purpose, it'd be Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, albeit because his wingers keep fluctuating every game. I don't know how long that's going to continue, because that impacts everybody when you don't know who you're playing with and you don't know their habits and so on. And then defensively, I think the more consistent guy has been Larson. And Larson's great thing is that every player that he plays with, he's made better. And that goes into my highest high defensively, which has been Nurse, who I think has been much improved this season, albeit still making a lot of big mistakes that fortunately hasn't led to as many goals against or called out as much. But definitely, I think Nurse needs to improve his vision, just on the basis of just looking around, and I think he'd be absolutely a top 3 defenseman in the league.
Top 3 defenseman, like on a team, you mean?
Yeah, on a team. On an NHL, like Stanley Cup final team, actually. Like, I think he's very good.
So you're notably bad players. The team's been bad, but you're notably really bad players this year.
Standing out kind of bad.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't like Maroon. I think that Maroon, I shouldn't say that I don't like him, but he's just not there. Like the skill level for him is just not there for the eye test. I see plays die on his stick all the time. And it was probably that way last year too. I just didn't notice it as much. So that would be offensively, and then defensively.
Clefbaum.
God, I guess Clefbaum. It's got to be Clefbaum. You know, he's expected to be like pretty much our number one guy, our like best overall guy, mixture of offense and defense, and he just has not been there. So
Yeah.
Cassian
I'll go after you. I think the most noticeable the offensive players for me that have not been good have been Ryan Strome is the one that stands out to be most, not just on the basis of he's a guy that, you know, ignore the trade, ignore all the circumstances. When you get top 6 minutes and top 9 minutes, like you need to at least have one instance where you show up in a game, and he shows up about as often as we claimed Everly did last year. And that's where my issue comes up with Ryan Strome. And then continuing on with that, also another player that I don't think is showing up well is Lucic, but I did think in the middle of this 20-game stretch, I think he did have a few odd good games. But to round that out defensively, I think Clefbaum, while he hasn't been like living up to be that number one defenseman and he's having a huge slump, I think a lot of that can be attributed to the fact that he had never played an 82-game season before last year. Considering all the minutes that he played, including playoffs, I think that's just harping on him. So I'm one of the few people that will give him a little bit of a longer leash. But on that point, I will talk that I think the worst player defensively has been Benning. Benning has been an absolute standout in that regard. He has not looked good. And he's basically was wished into a top 4 defensive role. And he played himself out of that into a bottom 6, frequently being subbed out kind of role. Adam.
For me, it's Cassian and Maroon. Actually, Cassian and Maroon have both been taking stupid penalties, even if they play with energy. The amount of dumb penalties they've been taking, regardless of whether or not we're not taking many penalties a game, are costly. We give up a goal. Patrick Maroon takes a stupid elbowing penalty. We're down 2 goals.
Yeah.
Cassian's been invisible. Yeah.
Cassian's been
everyone in the subreddit keeps going like, oh, the Cassian should get more minutes. Why should we give a guy that has 2 points in 17 games more minutes? That makes no sense.
He's playing like crap. The other guy for me is, to be honest, Pacarina's been
bad.
He's been our player that if he's on 4th line, he's been energy, and we can bring him up to the 2nd line or 1st line if need be. He's just been bad.
He's just been bad.
Moving to defense, Benning and Clefbaum. Really, the only 2 that you can say are bad. Russell's playing up to his ability.
I will point out one thing for Russell. Russell has enough good points that the bad points just cancel out with each other. Sorry,
he's been pretty well a nil, which is fine by me for him. We need Sekera back. Like, our breakouts are just fucking awful. It's literally just throwing the puck around the boards. I've seen shit more. I did more plays in Bantam, and I played on fucking 8. I didn't even play like high rep. It was literally just actual breakouts. This is just throw the fucking puck around, hope pops out. It's a joke. So.
And the risk of the bad breakout isn't the fact that you don't have offense, because we're putting it a lot on net. It's just we lack those fast breaks and odd man rushes that we scored on last year.
Well, not even that so much as the 3rd and 4th line are trying to ring around the boards. They get trapped in the zone. They're having a minute and a half shift and they get scored on, or they take a dumb penalty and then we run the penalty.
Dumb penalty is the biggest thing.
Great idea.
I've seen that so many times. Yeah, it just kills me.
Then you're tired. You grab people. It's just shit needs to change.
And it's not as if like it's like a one and done kind of situation that stands out of our mind. It just happens way too often.
Yeah.
And on that topic, is there a final grade that you'd like to give the team? Adam.
F. We were supposed to be a contender this year. Or at the very least, a playoff contender, and we're likely out of the playoffs, if not very close to being out of the playoffs.
F. Same reasons. We were supposed to be a contender. This was our 1 year to really go for it for the Stanley Cup before McDavid's contract kicks in, before the pressure to trade Nuge really heats up, and we're fucking it up. So F.
And yeah, I will go along in that similar vein and give that a D minus. I will be a little bit kinder because I do think when we do play well, we are playing well. Is just lately there have been a lot of low lows, and that's skewing our judgment perhaps a little bit.
I mean,
but at the end of the day, we are not a good team.
We're the third last team in the NHL.
Yeah, we are third last team in the NHL.
Good games if you don't win doesn't matter for fuck all.
Okay, Adam, let me finish. And we're not doing poorly, but I do think there's a little bit of a glimmer in there, and that's why I won't go the grade below that to an F, and I'll go with the D minus.
Fair enough.
Anyway, so that's it from us. We have to wrap up and head off to work and things like that. But this has been me, a Lunatic5 on Reddit. Also with me today were Adam, otherwise known as Street44722, and James, otherwise known as Paul-McCartney-, all on Reddit. And I hope you'll catch us probably 2 weeks from now. Apologies that this cast didn't come out until 3 weeks after the last one. We weren't able to get together last week. But we were this week, and we gave your quarterly review. In terms of alternatives to watching a hockey game, you can pick up new hobbies. There are some good video games out, and we encourage you to do that to avoid the compounding effects of seasonal depression and seasonal Oilers depression.
Just don't play an NHL team.
Yeah, don't play it. Please don't play that game. Anyway, this has been me. Please do like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you in another 2 weeks. See ya.